Welcome back, fellow nerds, to another episode of The First, The Last, The Nerdom. ML and Tom here. Today, we're diving into the cosmic depths of the 1981 sci-fi classic starring Sean Connery, Outland. Imagine a space colony on Jupiter's moon, Io, where lawlessness runs rampant and a lone marshal must stand against the odds to uncover a deadly conspiracy. With a gripping mix of futuristic noir and intense action, Outland takes us on a journey through the darkest corners of space. Buckle up as we explore this high-stakes thriller and see if it's truly out of this world. Let's get into it. Blast off into the details. Make it so. Hey, Tom.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad. We had to go from the 50s to off into the future.
Yes, we did. Yes, sir, we did. Yeah, this is a fun one. I'm glad you recommended this one. And if you notice, oh crap! I just moved one of the elements around. Anyway, I grabbed the wrong
Doing
thing.
a little shuffling. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had I had to cut costs. There's some budget cuts. And I had to go back to some of the software that I had got really good at before we jumped back into the browser thing. Anyway, none of that matters. But I like the intro said, we're here with 1981 Sean Connery, Outland sci-fi classic, as I mentioned in the intro at the top of the show. Yeah. So what made you? What's your background? What's your history? Why'd you pick this one this week for us to get into?
Well, it's one of those sci-fi movies that I always wanted to watch, but when it came out, it was I think it was rated R, so I was a little too young for rated R movies, and it always confused me. It's like, well, sci-fi and fantasy should be for kids. Why can't I see this? You know, and obviously I wouldn't have really understood it quite as well as I do now that I'm older, but it's one of those movies that I wanted to watch when I was a kid, and I'd see it in the sci-fi magazines like Starlog. I was like, oh, that looks pretty cool. And then, but yeah, and then I forgot about it. And then a couple of years back, I was watching Comic Book Tropes do a thing on Jim Steranko, who did oddly enough, the comic book adaptation of it, and it kind of threw it back into my mind, and I go, oh yeah, that might be something good for me and Mike to watch, since Mike's a big sci-fi guy, that's
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is I've heard few different ways that this movie's been the best way that I came across. Not my original thoughts, but it's the best movie you've never seen. The best Sean Connery movie you've never seen. I think that's a very fair, apt description of itself. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, and oddly enough, it has some ties to a movie we talked about earlier this year, Time Bandits. Sean Connery was actually filming it at the same time, and
That's true.
yeah, and they did some extra filming, a couple of extra scenes in Time Bandits, and the director kindly let Sean Connery run off one morning to film those for Time Bandits. So yeah, it's interesting how there's a synchronicity with all the stuff that we cover. There's like ties to it. You remember
Oh,
the
I
old
love it.
the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, how everything kind of ties back to Kevin Bacon. It's kind of interesting how all of the stuff we cover, especially during the 80s, how it all kind of somehow loosely ties together in odd ways.
Yeah. It is funny too. And the director here, and I'm gonna get into. I might as well get into the screen share here, and I might return us to the thing. Here we go. We're switching it up here, all fancy pants here. We spare no expense for you, the viewer, as we overcome our knowledge limitations every time we do this. So all joking aside, but I was going to get into the director here, Peter. Oh, good grief! Oh, I couldn't
Haynes.
do this to say. And you know what? This is so new. The setup is so new. I didn't even do our plugging. Which shame on me. So I'm going to take a moment here, real quick, and say, pay the bills, so to speak, and say we are primarily on You will always find us here, the First Last Nerdom on YouTube, and you also will find Tom over on Reddit, repping our account over there as well. Hopefully Reddit's been
Yeah, and we got permanently banned on Reddit on the HBO subreddit. Although I checked it and I'm not banned, so I guess they took away they banned us and then unbanned us.
Yeah, maybe it was a temporary one or something along those lines. But
Well, it said permanent, yeah,
well,
a temporary permanent ban.
well, I got to give you a round of applause around here of applause, because you definitely have the patience to deal with Reddit. My patience for Reddit burned out long time ago. So God bless you for doing that, handling that side of the house. I greatly appreciate it. And even better if you can find Tom, you / FirstLastNerdom, and then we'll move on to also probably gaining, or probably much more. Well, I guess they're probably good in their own rights, I suppose. But anyway, on X here, formerly the artist formerly known as Twitter, you have Tom heading up our account over there as well. So say hi, give him a follow if you could. Would be great. That way, every time we post a video, whether it's me or Tom, we will put it out on Twitter, and we would love to get this community going there and maybe get a little bit bigger. I also have my own publication of record, ApeIt.Ink. It's a little bit more heavier side of life, kind of sort of thing, more opinionated. We like to keep it light over here at the First Last Nerdom, when we just do the entertainment, just do the nerdom thing. Also, I'm on Twitter as well, ApeIt_Ink. You'll find me. Anyway, getting on to our main thing. There's that Jim Steranko thing, but I was going to jump in here with the Outland. Or Outland, excuse me, on the IMDb page. Peter, I had his name. I'll let you pronounce. I'll let you do the dirty work here.
Hyams, I guess.
Yeah, Hyams. Yeah,
Hyams.
Yeah, Hyams. You're right.
Yeah,
It's not that
would be
difficult.
my.
Yeah, I just got like brain locked there for
Yeah, that Y throws you off. You think maybe you should
Hyams.
stress
Yeah,
that maybe yams, but no, yeah, I
Hyams.
think so.
But
No,
yeah,
yeah, he directed another sci-fi classic, 2010. So he did that as well, and Capricorn One, which I haven't ever seen.
I was gonna go down to his bona fides here after covering our
Yeah,
bona fides
yeah,
for
but
these.
evidently he wanted to do a western, and Hollywood told him he can't do a western. So he said, "Why not do a western in space?" And that's sort
Mm-hmm.
of what Outland is, sort of the High Noon in space. Although I haven't never seen High Noon.
Yeah,
I don't
Gary
think I
Cooper.
might have seen. Yeah, I might have seen parts of it because it sounded familiar about
I
a lone uh, law guy, marshal, who has to face off the bad guys all alone with a town that is kind of is kind of scorned him, or it's let him be.
Yeah, he's got a Gary Cooper had to take on a lone sheriff in town. Had to take on a murderous gang of
Mhm.
thugs. Whole pretty much whole gang versus him. And now I've never seen that movie per se
Mhm.
officially, but I know that there are concepts that are recycled and done better or worse as tropes and whatnot. I know
Mhm.
we have done a few westerns. The first, last, or the Good, the Bad, the Ugly. I believe we covered that one. Sergio Leone. Very fun
Mhm.
time. So it would be kind of cool to maybe dip a toe in a western here or there. Although technically westerns are, I mean, it's no different really than any other genre, but there definitely is a nerdom around them for sure. So we can claim that
Mhm.
and keep moving. Um,
Definitely.
but I would say, yeah. So High Noon, you have Sean Connery. He's the Marshal of the Year to come
Mhm.
out to this moon of Saturn, of Jupiter, excuse me, Io, where they do mining and whatnot, and come to find out there's a series of strange occurrences of folks um, going a little crazy, to say the least. Kind of
Yeah.
almost a True Detective almost type opening, but I
Mhm.
suppose it's a common enough trope. And He teams up with the good doctor. I can't think of her name, but I'll pull it up here in a minute as we go through this thing.
Yeah, and it was
Lazarus,
originally
Dr. Lazarus.
Doctor. Yeah, that's right, Lazarus. That kind
Of course.
was interesting. Yeah, so the movie was originally supposed to be called IO, which would have been kind of cool, but people kind of would see it and would pronounce it low or tin, and not good to have people confused about what how your movie's supposed to sound. So they quickly changed it over to Outland, which has a interest. Outland just kind of sounds interesting, kind of mysterious. Like what's going on, and their advertisement for it was like just the words Outland with space is kind of reminiscent of Alien with that glowing cracked egg thing that they have on their poster, which yeah, of course, Alien had a alien and to surprise you with, and this just had Sean Connery. But
Well, right.
Sean Connery's not nothing to sniff at. And actually, I was kind of thinking back on it. I think Time Bandits is the only other Sean Connery thing we've kind of did on this show, right? Because at least
No,
anything that stars him,
well, and shame on us for what I'm sure we'll get there. It's kind of like
right?
how do you not cover like one or two James Bond films, because that definitely bent the line on what is sci-fi, what is
Hmm.
preposterous kind of this classic James Bond figure. But Sean Connery, nonetheless, an esteemed actor. I grew up loved The Rock. I loved that movie. That had Nick Cage and Sean Connery in it.
Hmm.
That's one of my probably one of that probably Con Air are probably two of my top favorite personal Nick Cage movies.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with anything, just about anything that Sean Connery's in, and he carries this movie all the way through. If it were not for him, I don't think this movie would be what it is today, or even back then, in my opinion. And that's kind of the consensus that has been given if you sit down to watch this hour and 40 some odd minute flick where you roll through. It doesn't take it does take itself serious, which helps, I think. Would
Yeah,
you
I really liked the workaday kind of feel to it. There's very much a lived-in movie, much like Alien. Everything looked and felt authentic. It's almost they put a lot of thought into how this whole mining facility would work and all
they
the
did.
little ins and outs, and it really felt lived in. It didn't nothing kind of stood out as like that doesn't make sense. It all kind of fits together, and even with there's like the movie begins with one of the workers going crazy. That whole little scene is sort of like a slice of life of what would be going on during that in this fictitious mining facility. Very very well lived in, and had a great look to it. I kept thinking this looks like almost like a sci-fi video game that you would play nowadays, like Starfield. One of the planets you would maybe a mining facility you would land upon
Mm-hmm.
and walk around. It looks very much like that.
Yeah, just to touch on that real quick, Starfield, I got bit hard last year. It was actually a year
Hmm.
ago that game came out, and the first few times that I would land, and it was very novel, very new thing. It was really cool too. But
Hmm.
nonetheless, this the technical background and some of the special effects folks, practical effects folks, I believe came over from Alien, or
Hmm.
Aliens. I can't remember which one. I think it's Aliens. But anyway, they
Yeah.
came over, so some of it makes sense, and they did a very good job for the world building, and the kind of the grimy workaday. You call it workaday, I call it
Hmm.
grimy type. Kind of very much lived in
Hmm.
aesthetic that really was picked up on by other famous sci-fi movies. So I don't know how much I can claim or that this could claim that it influenced that, but very dirty, grimy, gritty feel. Uh, Works for this. It got picked up by the expand. There are certain kind of cues that kind of go in and out. I think
Hmm.
that team also. I think there were also some technical people that came over from Superman, I think, or one of the Superman films. But in any case, they definitely had some good talent behind the scenes. The background folks who did their job.
Mhm.
And I was gonna pull up some of my show notes. Shame on me for not having that ready to go. But I'll let you talk
Uh,
about kind of setting up the scene and where he comes in at, and kind of sets up
yeah.
the first few steps as you're climbing the plot, all the up to the climax.
Yeah. So you once you get the kind of intro, kind of prologue with the when the guy's going crazy and killing himself, thinking there's spiders on him. You were introduced to Sean Connery's character O'Neill, who's a federal marshal. He's there just newly with his family. Evidently, they've been kind of hopping around from space station to space station doing jobs, and you can tell the mother's a little stressed. She's kind of wanting to get back to Earth, and they have a son who's never been to Earth, and so there's already that kind of family drama there. And then when you go to sort of his kind of intro to all the um, people there, the like the other security people, and I guess the heads of all the departments there. Yeah, he gets a stern warning from the general manager, played by Peter Boyle. Shepard
Mm.
is his character. That yeah, as long as everybody's cool, everybody's as long as everybody's working, everybody's doing their part, whatever they do on their off hours, just let them be,
Yep.
hey, live and let live. Yeah, evidently, prostitution isn't outlawed there in this station, and
Very real gritty world again that we
you're
are
right.
in, that many others picked up and expanded upon in other
Mm-hmm.
properties. Yeah, that yeah, very gritty. Almost not. I wouldn't quite say it's cyberpunk, but it definitely has a
It has I think the beginnings of cyberpunk. It's sort
yeah.
of like it kind of laid the groundwork where Blade Runner kind of expounded upon that. You do get a little bit of lens flare. I noticed there's some lens flare shots in there, which
Hmm.
I'm thinking young JJ Abrams probably watched this movie and was somewhat influenced by it. But yeah, I think Alien came out first, which obviously inspired this movie's look, and then this movie look and feel, and its kind of workday kind of vibe to it inspired stuff in Aliens, and also in Blade Runner. I think it's just
I was gonna
a
say Blade Runner.
progression, yeah, a progression of influence, and kind of inspiring and expounding upon, because what was big before this, Star Trek, which was very clean and
Hmm.
you know and had a kind of perfect world, sort of that whole thing about sci-fi's kind of reflection of what we see the future to be. And obviously, the optimistic people look to Star Trek, and then the more pessimistic people might look towards this movie and Blade Runner. And it's like, how no matter how far you get off into space, humans are going to be humans, and get up to the shenanigans that humans do.
100% right. There are so many other cues and nods from 1981. It from
Mhm.
the beards that they wear, and
Yeah.
Peter Boyle does a great job too in this, which
Yeah.
he often overlooked actor. For
Yeah.
so when I look back and I see films and movies and TV shows that I've remember it, Peter Boyle pops in somewhere, whether it's
Mhm. Yeah.
Everybody Loves Raymond, back in the day when sitcoms were still a thing and
Right.
people were
And the
watching
big
them.
movie we did a few months back, Young Frankenstein.
Absolutely, yeah.
he
Oh,
was he was
perfect.
the monster in that.
Oh, wonderfully talented guy. So when he plays the baddie, this kind of a hick, I get, I want to say like a hick redneck kind of,
Hmm.
uh, not quite. He's not slick like a mob boss. He's just kind of like,
Yeah.
this is the county. Like, going back to that, the
Hmm.
observation that this is high noon in space. This is kind of his town, and you're in it, and the law is what he says or doesn't say what that means. And he certainly tries to when you get to the kind of the confrontation between them, where he's
Mm-hmm.
doing his job, and he's thinking Peter Boyle's character is thinking that he's just sniffing around for a little more money, and
Yep.
unfortunately for him, Sean Connery is not that guy, not that Marshall, not that kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and it's kind of dramatic where how like um Shepard has his nice little office and living quarters, and even O'Neill, Federal Marshal O'Neill, he has a kind of a nice place comparatively to the everyday worker, because you get to look at their kind of cubicles. They have the little kind of sleeping
Slats,
tubes,
yeah.
or yeah, and very much reminiscent. I don't know if that inspired, like yeah, how Japan has those little
Sleep
tube
pods
hotels.
and
Yes,
things. Yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've
exactly.
seen those.
And yeah, it looks. I would say that this kind of inspired those. I don't know which came first. I think that was Japanese. Yeah, sleeping hotels came later.
Oh,
Must have been kind of inspired by that.
God knows I've fallen into a rabbit hole or three of watching, a different. Uh, well, they're more. It's not just Japan. It's there. I believe they're over in other parts of Asia, but Japan is
Hmm.
where I'm
Yeah.
familiar with them from. But yeah, this whole kind of there is, you kind of have privacy, but you don't.
Exactly.
And
Got the little shades you could pull down.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You have
Hmm.
the I don't want, it's not dystopian that I want to say, but you definitely have that gritty side. I guess it would be cyberpunk, like corporate punk type, mentality of like, an Alien. You had the corporation. Well, we're not going to make our
Hmm.
bonus or whatever. That sort of type feeling. Like
Hmm.
let's just pretend that we didn't hear distress signal and move on.
Hmm.
That unethicalness, but definitely situational ethics that this
Hmm.
movie serves in. You see the people who care. The doctor gives a crap. Definitely is preoccupied in her own thing because she already knows it's a mess. So it's kind of like people are already truncated and have a mess
Hmm.
going on up there, and they're not necessarily there to clean it up. They're not necessarily there to make it any dirtier, but they're just a waypoint through space, and that's how Peter Boyle's character. That's how he tries to tackle O'Neill and say, "Look, man, I'm gonna I'm not gonna be here forever, but either of you, and you should just keep your mouth shut and just like nothing's going on. But the problem is the people are getting hurt, and that means something too. That speaks to the humanity in Sean Connery's O'Neill,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
no,
Where he
and
cares, he gives a
they,
shit.
yeah, yeah, and they don't really get much into his past. Although you could
Very briefly.
definitely see that, yeah, that he's probably made some mistakes in his past, and that's sort of
Mm-hmm.
why he's in this location. Shepard kind of points out, you're here for a reason. You're not above us. There's nothing for you to prove. And but I think with and he might not have if his wife hadn't stepped away from him. His wife and his son have decided they're going to go back to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So he's feeling very much alone. And when your wife leaves you, which I have never experienced that, but I would assume you go through a sort of self evaluation and kind of
Oh, it's horrible.
start
Yeah.
judging yourself, and he must have found himself lacking, and he has something to prove, if not to himself, to his wife, but basically, yeah, to himself, and it's interesting how in most movies today the characters would vocalize it more, they would go into, but this is sort of still that time period where the stoic male lead doesn't cry, or puts his heart on his sleeve. It's very much internal. And
Mm-hmm.
so I can see where some people might this movie might be a little cold to them because of that, because the Sean Connery's character, he doesn't open up a whole lot. There's a
No,
couple of
he's
scenes
a tough guy.
with the yeah with the doctor,
Quintessential tough guy. Yeah.
yeah, where he kind of gets into a little bit of what's going on in his head. But yeah, most of it's kind of left unsaid, which I found Very, very refreshing. Also, I like the technology. With him, it's very much kind of seeing into the future. With him sitting down at his little office cubicle in the house, checking his messages. Obviously, they were thinking, oh, we'd be much more into video. Whereas more, it would be like him checking his emails. He's checking his visual emails, I guess, so to speak, before he goes into the office, which is very much what we do today. We check our emails before we head off into the day. See if there's any updates. Urgent
Oh,
updates.
no, absolutely, yeah. And this was one of his first roles where he's trying to separate himself from the James Bond that I had mentioned before, and
Mhm.
it just shows you. It kind of makes me sad a little bit that we didn't get to see more of Sean Connery in science
Mhm.
fiction
Mhm.
movies, because he has the clout. He knows how to pull off the role. He has this gravitas, like where he can play the. It's essentially a cowboy. You could see him. You could see him working very well on a western.
Mhm.
If he, I'm sure he. I have no idea. That would be a great question out there to answer,
Mhm.
or to figure out an answer to. Even more fun to watch something. But regardless, he without him, this movie would not be what it is. Peter Boyle is a good foil for him for his serious level of acting. You know, I won't give anything away, but he doesn't last too long. Like he's not too much of a tough guy, so to speak.
Mhm.
But like I said, it showcases his versatility,
Mhm.
and oh, well, I did have it in my notes. That's what I was getting at. That's why I was talking so much about that. It did influence other science fiction films later on with its
Mhm.
gritty, realistic, workaday. I love the way you put it. That's perfect. Depiction of space, like when humans go into space. Oh, it's going to be clean, and no. It's going to be stinky. It's going to
Yeah,
be dirty.
everybody's gonna be on the same level. Everybody's
It's
gonna
going to be
be,
messy.
raised
Yeah,
above. No, no.
right. Yeah. Like some kind of Star Trek utopian, kind of thing.
Yeah,
The
right.
opposite end of the
Hmm.
spectrum, more toward the Star Wars end of the spectrum,
Yeah,
whereas kind of.
yeah. There's always gonna be the haves and have-nots,
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
no matter what. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So yeah.
yeah, so as you mentioned before, we're cutting along here very nicely, I think. But you see these workers, these miners, um, and the company is about getting more from them. So come to find out, and this is a very old movie. So this is what, 41-year
Hmm.
movie, or 40, no, excuse me, 43-year-old movie. So spoilers ahead. So, but you see that there's this drug, drugs have to play with this, which you see in other science fiction trope. It's a very well used plot. Uh,
Hmm.
Plot device, I suppose, or part of the story that is very critical. You
Yeah, I
see
think
these.
one of the dings I'll give against the movie is there's a scene early on where there's like the big drug dealer guy that delivers the drugs out to people. Um, he delivers it to one of the guys that the just the everyday worker guys, and that worker guy and the drug dealer look almost exactly the same. So it got kind of confusing on which was which during that the.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I kind of get
Mhm.
confused with movies anyway. And I
Mhm.
think that, I mean, this movie was only made with $16 million, which is a lot of money back in 1981. I'm sure
Mhm.
it made that money back domestically. I don't quite know what it made worldwide, but it was enough to at least
Yeah.
make some money. Maybe, I don't know, but yeah, with that, with the similarity, yeah. And I will say, without Sean Connery on screen, and if it's not the doctor, Dr. Lazarus, or Shepard, Peter Boyle, it kind of goes. It kind of, aside from, like, a wider shot showing the crew or whatever, kind of
Mhm.
setting up the thing. But every time you don't see Sean Connery, and this movie is left to somebody else that's not those three people, it kind of gets a little goofy, a little silly, maybe a little bit, but it works. I don't. It didn't take me out, but I could see like where it would take somebody out. If you're a sci-fi hardcore, person. It worked for me because it's kind of I'm a big fan of westerns anyway, so you kind of have to have the kind of like the oh, or whatever, kind of over Shatner-esque acting, like where they're just not great. the
Yeah,
the
and for the
hitmen, in other words, the hitmen are kind of dumb, is what I'm saying.
yeah, yeah, they're sort of there to be fodder, but yeah, the
But it
special
works.
effects are even for the special effects are quite good. Even they maybe not hold up completely, but do a good job. And actually, this is the first movie to introduce intro vision,
Hmm.
which is gives you usually they would have for like with matte paintings and whatnot, you would have the background
Oh, right, right, right.
kind of, and then you'd have the actors in front of whatever it is. Whereas the intro vision introduced foreground element as well as a background element, and putting the live action in between those. It was the first time that was done, so they didn't know how it was going to turn out. And actually, um, Peter Hyams, he hired Stephen Goldblatt to be the cinematographer, and evidently he wasn't even really the cinematographer.
Really.
Peter Hyams actually did the cinematography because he wanted to do the intro vision, and so it kind of pissed Stephen off initially because he got hired on as a cinematographer, and that's what director of photography, and that's what
Really.
he wanted to do, and he just kind of showed up, and Peter did all the work. But basically, Stephen kind of looked at it as, well, I'm getting to learn this new technology. Plus, this is a big motion picture, so I get the credit for it, even though I didn't really
Right.
do it. And also, if he had kind of quit on it, that would look bad on him. So it kind of worked out for all the way around. But he didn't show up for the rap party at the end because he didn't feel like he was really involved with the movie. But yeah, that's kind of interesting. How Peter believed in the intro vision so much that he would risk all that for this, and obviously it paid off because it's yeah, it became a big thing. But yeah, he took a huge risk there.
No, he did, and he is a good director, regardless. Because I agree, the nerd part in me, the sci-fi, I love the aesthetic of this. It
Hmm.
reminded me so much of Aliens, that universe, that Ridley
Hmm.
Scott universe. Uh, it also reminded me of Blade Runner. Well, again, these things are kind of like running in a series of like where one definitely borrows a lot from the other, but I love that. I love
Hmm.
that kind of rundown civilian martial type, the down to using a shotgun, which is at any time you can bring a shotgun into the mix, and it's like a short barreled one or whatever, the that type of uh that feeling that you get. Mad Max invokes Punisher for me. It invokes a lot
Hmm.
of gravitas with that thing. So
Yeah,
it
yeah, the
works
whole
very well.
yeah, and the whole terminals looked almost exactly like the Aliens one, and there's the whole big company vibe to
Mm-hmm.
this movie
Corpo
that Alien has. There's a Over the years, people have
Weyland
developed
machine.
a conspiracy or a theory that this is actually
Same
in the
universe.
universe of the Alien universe,
I could see that.
and
I could see that.
yeah, and in fact,
I mean, it's fun discussion points for sure.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, you could definitely see the ties to it, and if you wanted to just say that this was in the expanded universe of Alien, then yeah, that it kind of works. And also, James Cameron, I guess, did a little nod to it in Terminator 2. The drug in this is called polydeciloric
Hmm.
ethanol, or probably mispronouncing it,
Sure.
but there's some barrels, yellow barrels of explosive in Terminator 2 Judgment Day that had those two words on it. So
That's funny.
yeah, I think the ethanol is spelled slightly different, but yeah, it must have been his kind of nod to it. So the sci-fi nerds know its place in the annals of sci-fi.
Yeah, this fits very well in an Expanse type, Aliens type, which all Alien Romulus is coming out middle of this month. So shout out to that. I know
Mhm.
I'm very curious about trailers look awesome for. But any time you can get into that aesthetic, you're winning. Again, this isn't like the greatest best science fiction movie I've ever seen, but I was very happy with it because it has Sean Connery in it. And how
Mhm.
can you not like? And the visuals are very good. Not as great as yeah. This is that confrontation scene here where he's talking to him and he's like, well, uh, you're a pissant and you're just passing the way through.
Mhm.
So whatever. I think actually Peter Boyle says something about like whatever toilet you came from or toilet bowl or something to that effect, referring to Sean Connery had some kind of a mishap to indicate it's an indictment on him that he has to do this out in the middle of nowhere,
Mhm.
but out in Iowa where nobody gives a
Mhm.
nobody should in his mind. What do you care? We're out here. Nobody's whatever, but people start
Mhm.
dying. And I will say that the nowhere near the body gore that aliens and Alien brokered on the big screen at all. But it holds its own, I will say, for kind of like its Spando face
Yeah.
bursting in, kind of you have this. I don't know if you would call it hard science fiction approach to like how you would die to the vacuum of space.
Mhm.
Obviously they took license with it, but it's that kind of movie. But they did a good enough job to go. So
Mhm.
you also kind of go back to like when the one of the first major scenes with Dr. Lazarus and O'Neill. You have them going back and forth, and he's like, well, did you do an autopsy on the bodies? And she's like, no,
Mhm.
no, because did you see basically they were in pieces. So like it's pretty obvious what killed them is what the thing. But of course, if this movie were made in the late 2000s or early 2000s, it would have had fingerprints of NCIS or CIS, Law and Order fingerprints all over it. Like where's the talk screen? Where's the all these other kind of things that would add to it. But even without that, it still brings it home, and I very much enjoy. This is kind of like a one that I will love to revisit in a not too long, to put it in the
Yeah.
rewatch queue because it holds its own. It has just movies of this era in the 80s anyway already kind of grab you, and it's already grabbing you from the Alien side, Ridley Scott side of the house to Sean Connery, which very much is enjoyable. I don't. What were
Yeah.
some of your favorite highlights?
Yeah. I like the nod to there there I always enjoy with sci-fi movies is how they puzzle over what the future will look like, what little um life conveniences it will have. And
Mm.
there's the scene with Shepard and O'Neill, one of their confrontation scenes where Shepard's well, both scenes he's playing golf. That one he's just doing the little miniature golf with
Oh,
the little
yep.
setup, and then
Hmm.
later on he had a full screen, very much like a
VR.
golf VR, yeah. With him hitting the ball and it going off into the screen, and you see where the ball goes. And yeah, it was very much of a, yeah, okay, yeah, we actually have that now. That
That's
technology.
funny. Oh, I was
um
also gonna say too, where this encroaches on High Noon. They had the classic train station scene. I think they kind of show it here, like where it kind of tells you has a countdown of when the stagecoach is coming in or when the train. These kind of little
yeah.
dots here that set up the height for tension. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, and then at the very beginning, they kind of give you the statistics of the mining facility,
That's
which
right, they do. I forgot about that.
works real well to kind of break down the society that you're going to be seeing without having too much of a intrusion. It's just sort of like bam, bam, bam. Okay, here we are. This is what we're doing. So it gives you all the information you need to download to understand what's going on with this world. So they did a very good job about not having a whole lot of exposition, but you knowing what's going on and how the things kind of work. There's obviously the bad guys come into town to take O'Neill out, and unlike a western that's not a big shootout, there's some inventive ways that O'Neill goes about taking out the bad guys, and there's some double crossing there and betrayals, which we won't spoil. But the other thing that kind of stood out to me, and I have to ask you this, I didn't do any research, but at the end it ends with an email. Is this the first email in a movie? He emails his wife at the end, and I guess it's more or less there was an email at that point,
Sure.
and it was I guess
Well, I
fact,
believe that
yeah,
I think email's been around for very, maybe not quite like we well, you
right.
know what? I don't know. I'm not even gonna I because I know if I make a guess on like when email came out, I have in mind like all those very boring computer history classes or trivia you've ever sat. I know you've sat through some. I'm sure you've absorbed some over the years for sure, for damn sure. But I don't even know. That's a good question. I wonder, and I forgot about. See, this is cool. This is the thing I love about what we do is we talk about this thing and we really
Hmm.
get into the thing. Yeah, we're not going to spoil the thing, but this does kind of like from the shout out to you that not one person has connected those dots that I've kind of absorbed from like kind of picking up the
Right.
scent and
Yeah.
the spirit of what people what
Uh-huh.
the like I have a few science fiction
Hmm.
I'm sure you do too, channels
Hmm.
and websites you go
Hmm.
to for opinion for this or that,
Yeah.
depending upon what we're talking about. But it worked it worked very well. It does have that, it just has that
I mean,
good,
it was intended as electronic telegram, but it's basically an
it
email.
is an email. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
it
That, yeah, it's
is,
funny.
but yeah, I think that I mean, unless someone can, anyone out there can prove me wrong,
I,
it seems like this is the very first email.
yeah, I know. I didn't Peter. Didn't he go on to do 2010 Space Odyssey?
Yeah, he directed that. Hmm.
Yeah. Now in 2001 Space Odyssey, which was in the 70s, right?
Hmm.
Right.
It's late '60s, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, late 60s. I was gonna say. I wonder. They do have some kind of phone home AT&T chicanery
Yeah.
going on there, something like that. But anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, most of
It's
it's sort of like
fun part to talk about.
instant messages. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, well,
It's at least one of the first, anyway.
Well, that's what the some of the now this one didn't do as much. One of my favorite things for these kind of movies and films are the world building,
Hmm.
which it definitely does its own version of that. Not quite to the degree that a masterpiece would have, in my opinion,
Yeah.
humble opinion. But it still is relevant, and the ambiance itself is it could very well be considered a character or background or for whatever you want to call it, whatever you're, I need to go to my community college and I need to start taking a few cinema uh, classes to get a little bit better at
Hmm.
this thing that we're doing because it's
Yeah.
fascinating to me. I had no
Hmm.
idea cinema and movies could be so. Aside from being a fan and just watching what you like or taking in what
Hmm.
somebody else makes for you or their vision
Yeah.
of it, which are always the best are the ones that invite you in and invite you to make your own
Hmm.
and I think this movie does that too, which I think why it works so well because is Sean Connery. Sean Connery is not going to exposition you to death. Sean Connery is, aside from being the silent, well, he's not really the silent. I guess he could kind of technically be the silent type, but I think you know what I'm getting at here
Yeah.
with the
Yeah, he's a man's man, but yeah,
right
no,
exactly.
I did a quick search on the Googles, and they said You Got Mail has the first email. It's like, no, no,
No,
no.
that's in the title, maybe.
Yeah.
Like,
So
I am a big fan. My favorite rom-com of all time is You've Got Mail. A little fun fact, because it's got Dave Chappelle, Tom Hanks. It's got everything. Anyway, doesn't matter. No, definitely not the first movie that ever had email or electronic telegram or whatever, telewire or something like that, or some old
yeah.
school thing.
Another thing about this movie is you could tell it's early '80s, late '70s. It's everybody's smoking in this movie. There's like a fog
Yeah.
of smoke.
What I was gonna say was that they have there's a certain kind of cut of beard in '81, and we watched The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, right? And what year was that? Was that 80 or 79?
It was '80s, yeah, '80,
80, 80, 81, around this time. Around this time. But yeah, I was gonna say. Well, there's definitely a 1981 aesthetic for sure, which is so funny when you put these things together in totality. But anyway, it works very well, and of course, this is a very young.
Well, you kind of got the '80s beard going as well.
Well, I was gonna say that, but I was gonna actually I thought about that, and I was gonna classify my beard as more of like a '70s overgrowth kind of type situation, because I need to keep it. Well, it doesn't matter, but yeah, this was the shorter '80s beard that you saw, kind of, which was not all, not. I don't think it was a. Well, I don't know. I wasn't alive back in '81, so I have no idea if a beard was in or out. I have no idea. No clue. I'm sure it depended upon the cut of your jib and if you could pull it off or not.
Right. Well, '70s definitely '70s was beard heavy, and I think in early
Yeah.
'80s. But as '80s went on, it got more sort of the whole '80s neon, business chic kind of look kind of came in. Everybody's sort of shaving off their beards, so yeah, early '80s still cool, but yeah, as the '70s influence on the '80s kind of faded away, the beards went away as well.
Yeah, no, it worked very well. I'm just trying to think. We're pretty much all the way through the deck. Anyway, I did want to take some time, and that's classic Peter Boyle. Yeah. Well, and they also did kind of like they did. I wouldn't say that they were bound by hard science fiction, but I would say that they did nods to it. They did a hat tip or here with the hydroponics and the way that the effects worked. For example, I'm not going to spoil it, but this very idiot hitman takes aim at a certain sequence which makes no goddamn sense whatsoever, but you just go with it because it's Sean Connery.
Yeah, that was sort of like, oh, they're gonna do that. I mean, should
Like,
they have done something with the glass? But yeah, that was sort of like, okay, yeah, you see that coming a mile away, and they go, oh no, not gonna do that. But yeah, that's probably us being more um, educated in films. I think less so back in the day. These things wouldn't have stood out. It's sort of like right at the beginning of the movie with the guy freaking out on the spiders. You go, well, that guy's on drugs, which
right.
may not have been as apparent back in the day before the whole
Lightly
say
nodded
no
at.
to drugs. Yeah,
Right. Nancy Reagan.
yeah, exactly, exactly. That's where I was going. But yeah, exactly, and but yeah, I didn't know that there was a comic book adaptation. I sent you
Mm.
a article. I also shout out to Comic Tropes. We've talked about him on our channel. He did a little history of Jim Steranko, was a comic book artist I didn't know a whole lot about, and evidently he did an Outland adaptation in Heavy Metal magazine, and the art in it looks amazing. I was kind of stunned by
Holy shit.
how how great that looks. I want
Man.
to. There's not like obviously with the movie rights and everything, you would have to get the rights of the movie again plus the rights from Heavy Metal, but I would love to see a collected edition to this. This is one of those, along with 2001 by Jack Kirby, his adaptation of 2001. Those would be my holy grails to get as far as comic books. I would love to have. A lot of
Original.
people want. Yeah, everybody wants
Hmm.
the first appearance of Spider-Man. I don't have to have that, but
Right.
if I could get like this Outland or
Jeez, man,
2001 by Jack Kirby, that
really
would be
good.
amazing.
Yeah,
I love how Jim Steranko, how his view of sci-fi, the whole look of it. I like how it's sort of like a kind of a mosaic of different images.
it
Um,
it has a shellac of like 60s 70s
yeah,
feel to it, and from my
hmm
point of view, just looking, and I
yeah,
didn't look at the whole length that you when you sent it, so this is the first time seeing this.
yeah,
I agree. I already fell in love with the second image I saw of
hmm
this book. That would be very admirable to get this.
hmm
Well, I'll share offline what my little nerd corner is of what, little chunk of history that you want to kind of carry away with you. But wow,
hmm
this is really good. Um,
hmm
damn.
Yeah, we don't get that much now. Obviously back in the day, the only way to rewatch a movie was either on cable or
Mm,
in the 80s we were just starting to get VHS and being
TV.
able to watch it on tape. But your big thing was going to the movies or later on seeing it on TV on cable or whatnot. So you didn't have that readily available. So
Mm-mm.
these adaptions, like they would come out with novelizations, which Alan Dean Foster did do a novelization of Outland. But you also have these comic book adaptions, and I kind of wish that they still did that to certain movies nowadays. Just because sometimes you got some really cool art. A lot of it was, just pay for hire stuff that just was like average. But sometimes with these people like Jim Steranko, you get this almost this beautiful art. I almost would love to have like one of his pages as a piece of art on my wall, from Outland. But yeah, it really invigorated me to see this movie again, because for a movie to inspire the art that he created for the adaptation, you got to say, well, I got to see this movie that inspired this art,
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm just playing the background here. I forgot to pick up your YouTube link, and that'll be in the show notes down below, so YouTube can see. Yeah, this comic tropes guy is a wonderful, wonderful on ramp to getting serious. Like if you, it's just kind of like this movie thing that we've done, right? So we have been inspired to. I know, I'm sure you do it on your own time and you're in your own way. I do it on my own time. Like the creator, that all came from YouTube, of me watching some silly thing on, of all things, what kind of camera was used, because we're in this kind of 2020s where your modern cell phone can be shot on, and they've already done it to death already, but music video or a long form. Anyway, the cool part is, when you want to get into the back catalogs and understand who these people were and who the really great artists were. I mean, really great artists, and like what their background was and what their influences were. Um, Comic Tropes is a great, highly recommended, from Tom and myself. Cannot underscore that enough. If you want to know more about a specific artist, or you're not familiar, it is perfect for you to kind of deep dive in. And he doesn't do it in a way that's overbearing or whatever. He's got a very good
Yeah,
way of how he puts the story together. So shout
yeah.
out to Comic Tropes.
Mhm.
We'll ping him and make sure he gets a credit where due, for sure. But this is the
Yeah, and
this is
his
the
his little overviews aren't very long either. Like
mm-mm.
I think Jim Steranko's like it's between 20 and a half hour. Some of these uh, introspections on different artists, they get kind of long in the tooth, and it goes for an hour and a half. Which sometimes you want that long deep dive, but he
Mm.
he tends to do a deep dive, but it's relatively quick dives, even though he gets a lot of information packed into those. So, yeah, it's not like a time because I'm trying to say it's not time consuming
No, no,
um
no. You're,
kind of
you're
endeavors, but you
in and out.
get you come away with knowledge that you didn't have, But yeah, it's not like taking up half your day just watching it.
Yeah, no, I think we're coming up on the caboose here, and we've already kind of
Hmm.
done our extras here. Any other recommendations or commentary about the film? I think we did a pretty good we did pretty good
Yeah,
service.
yeah, it has its place in this history of sci-fi, like we said. It's not like the best movie ever made. It does have its faults, but it's definitely above average, but not the best movie you'll ever see. But yeah, it's if you haven't seen this, and you really like Sean Connery, definitely check it out. Obviously, we keep saying this about 70s and 80s movies. It's got a slower pace to it, but
Mm-hmm. Not
yeah,
too bad.
but for an evening, have crack open a beer and kind of sit back and then enjoy it, let it kind of wash over you. And also shout out to Canopy. I watched it on Canopy, which is the library thing. So if you have a library card, definitely check it out. It's just like it has a lot of stuff that Tubi has, but no commercials. So that's a definite plus. And you on Canopy you get allotted 30 tokens a month. Most of the movies are, I notice, old movies are like 2 tokens, but this
Hmm.
movie was four. So evidently it's maybe a little bit more popular, or one that was deemed worthy of four. So I don't know what that means, but there you go.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. And that's you and my brother-in-law and my sister have told me about the library, and I just need to get on the ball here and get with the kids,
Yep.
get up with all the cool kids are doing. Especially save some
Yeah.
money. God knows that 20% inflation
Mhm.
isn't going anywhere.
Yep.
The most
Yeah.
unwelcome house guest ever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's the past couple of weekends uh, everything I watched was on Canopy, and is like, okay, well, why am I paying for Netflix again?
Yeah, and with this new setup and some things, I know Tom has been wanting to do a let's play, and we will be definitely coming back with that for sure. I had
Yep.
I had kiddo weekend, so it was a little bit longer winded for me. Like when I was getting, just got everything set up. I want to play a game anyway. But you kind of put things aside. But look out for that. We got a couple cool games that we've been circling the drain around. And as
Yep.
always, before we go here, we are at Tippy Top here at where are we at? We are at about 58 minutes or so, 58 and a half. So that gives us perfect time here. Last minute and a half of the show before we go. I want to pump up our last live thing, which was our. I don't know about you and your thoughts. We didn't really talk about it, but we did a live show last week, Strangers on a Train, Alfred Hitchcock, and I'm sure it was the content and everything, but that was very fun, very quick romp.
Mhm.
306 views, which pretty much
Yep.
is well, I'll take it. So we'll see how this
Yeah.
one does.
Yep. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. By the end of our live feed, that we already had 80 views, so 80 people had stepped in and watched us live. Which shout out to you guys. Normally we only had 1 or 2 viewers, so we didn't have our eye on the chat. So if
no,
you watched last time live and chatted to us, sorry if we didn't respond. We weren't ignoring you. We just didn't realize we had an audience.
yeah, and,
we're,
go,
we're we're new to this.
yeah, and going to this new platform that I'm using to produce the show and everything else, it'll get a little bit better, a little bit better. So we'll have that ability to rein it in. But in any case, go check out our last the first, the last, the Nerdom, Strangers on a Train. I don't know about you, but it definitely whetted my appetite for more Hitchcock. Probably
Yeah.
not all of Hitchcock, but definitely some. I have one on the list that I could always go for. Always good to have a Hitchcock movie in your back pocket. You'll never go wrong if you do. You'll look
Yeah.
classy,
Yeah.
you'll look smart, and you'll have a good time.
Yep. And shout out to Good Movies. A movie that I was very happy with this summer. I think it was my number one of the summer. Furiosa. It's hitting Max, I think soon.
Oh yes,
So
very good
yeah,
movie.
perfect time to watch the movie and then follow it up with our little commentary on it. We did when it came out, we did a show on it. So yeah, you could see our thoughts on it after you watch it.
Yeah, there were two movies that this year that I had. Well, three, but the third one doesn't really count. It's a more of a different, longer version of it. But there are two movies that I really, really when you go to the theater and you spend all that money, or even just a little bit of money, or you're just doing a Tuesday matinee or whatever it is. It's always fun to go to the movies. Well, you hope that anyway. That's what I like to tell myself. Not always true in reality, but that's okay. But Furiosa was that movie, and Civil War were those two movies. I really, really, I felt like I got a deal for. I mean, sure, the amount of money you spend at the theater, but I felt like it was a deal because you got to go and see it, and the experience very wonderful. Furiosa is great, so I'm so glad you brought that up. I want to see that one again now too, but I'll save that for a weekend with the next week when we're
Yep.
in the middle of the school
Yeah.
start of the school year, because fall's coming around. Oh boy, it's coming around, and this
Yep.
year is fast approaching. Our third, it'll be our third anniversary, in
Yep.
November, right?
Yep. Yeah, and yeah, the one of the reasons we're thinking about gaming again is I got a new rig, a new laptop, which you probably noticed that there was I didn't drop out during the past few shows. I could tell my computer was on the way out, so I needed to quickly get a new. So thanks to Mike for dealing with my bad bad
All good.
computer.
All good. All good. I will never in a million years. And they say I come from the stand of if you complain about it, then you better replace it for them. Otherwise, shut your mouth. But anyway, and all good things. And you know what this is a work of love from myself and Tom, and with that, we would kindly, humbly ask you to really uh, go in and we would really do well if you could give us a subscribe. Very much appreciate it. Cost you nothing. It's free. This thing is always going to be free. If you could give us a comment, a like, a subscribe, whatever. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. We have 213 of a back catalog of this thing. We've been doing it for it'll be 3 years in November, and we're fast approaching November. Boy, Thanksgiving is going to be here soon. I can tell you that. Halloween as well. I know
Yep.
you're a Halloween. Isn't that one of your favorite holidays, my friend?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
always been a horror guy, so
Yeah, and
perfect time.
you've converted me to the horror genre. Again, as always, Tom heads up our Reddit division. Go check us out there. Give a little say hi to Tom. Also on Twitter as well. You can find me at ApeIt.Ink if you want some a little bit more heavier, a little bit different spin aside from the Nerdom, whatever, and the various things there. Also on Twitter as well. But more importantly, if you could give the First Last Nerdom a subscribe, a comment, a like, we would greatly appreciate it. And I think we're rolling up here on the end. I'm going to switch us out to our talking scene here before
Yeah,
we fade to
yeah,
black and play the theme song that you created.
right. Yeah, and Reddit, I get a lot of comments on that. So the Reddit heads out there, thanks for watching and sometimes commenting. But you YouTube frogs, you need to step it up. Go say hello to us in the comments.
Yeah.
we know you're out there.
Yeah, we're gonna be for well. We kind of joked about it a little bit when we were stuck at whatever number we were at earlier on, and now we're it's kind of the catch point is 420 or 429, 430, 431. Nope, 425. No, I'm just joking, but all the same, definitely would love to see you. Would love to have if you are a expert in some kind of thing around science fiction or writing, even if you're an amateur writer, don't care. If you would like to be on the show, please contact myself or Tom. We would love to have you on and kind of go from there because we have had We absolutely love, aside from enjoying these wonderful gifts that are out there that are called movies and comic books and books
Mm-hmm.
and the like, are the creators that make them. We are all about Procreator here, as we do our own twist on it, sometimes poorly, sometimes very well. But nonetheless, it is done with love, and it is done with a strive to help other people find these wonderful things that we've enjoyed and share them out. Nothing better than to hang out with somebody you love, or a friend, family member, whatever, and watch something really cool. That is
Mm-hmm.
that, or even alone. That's also very fun. I don't know about you, but I love my alone time, and I love to put something on that I really enjoy and like. And I have my own repertoire of favorites that I go to. But anyway, I'm getting long winded, and this I've been ML.
I'm Tom. Yeah.
All right,
Keep the
make
sci-fi going. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say like, oh, whoa, what blackout.
Yeah.